Welcome to Unplanned and Untold, a podcast that dives into the real-life, unexpected twists of facing an unplanned pregnancy in college. Join us as we listen to the unplanned and untold stories of those who have overcome the odds in order to achieve their goals. Well, welcome, Leslie. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hop on Baby Steps podcast, Unplanned and Untold. And we have a lot to dive into today with your story. But first, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school? What did that part of your life look like?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Weir. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. Well, actually, a little suburb north of Alabama, Birmingham. I grew up in Birmingham, all around Birmingham, though. I went to 6 different schools in 12 years. So I did a lot of moving, had to adjust all the time, meet new friends all the time. But I graduated from Pinson Valley High School, which is a suburb of Birmingham.
Okay. So was it a large high school? Paint that picture. What did high school look like for you?
High school was wonderful. I wouldn't say it large. It was not the largest school system. I think in Alabama, it's 7A is the largest. We were maybe what would be equivalent to 6A now. So not super small. I was a cheerleader. I was a gymnast before I started cheering for the school. So I was very involved, very active, and had a close group of friends.
That is awesome. I went to a massively large high school during graduation. They were calling students names that I didn't even know who they were. Which isn't always everyone's high school experience.
Yeah, there were some that I didn't know as well.
Okay.
But for the most part, we were a close-knit group, senior
class. Really awesome. And now going back to Leslie in high school, were you somewhat popular? I know you said gymnastics and cheer. So did you have much of a social life?
I did, as much as I could. I was a busy Leslie in high school. So I did gymnastics my freshman and sophomore year, competed for the school.
Wow.
So our team would compete against other high schools in the Birmingham area. Sophomore year, decided I wanted to cheer. And that obviously helped me socially because we cheered for all sports.
Yes.
So I was busy 12 months a year, even in the summer. We were practicing, we were competing. We competed. That wasn't even that popular back then, competitive cheerleading. This is back in the 80s.
Right.
We were a competitive cheer team, as well as a cheer team that cheered for our high school. So that was great. I also worked. As soon as I turned 16, I was fortunate enough to get a car, but I was told, you'll pay your gas and car insurance. So you need to work so you can afford your car. So I had a job. So I would go to school, go to cheerleading practice, clean up from that, go to work till 10 o'clock at night, and then start all over.
Wow. You're very motivated. Very motivated.
I wanted that car.
Absolutely. Don't we all? Man,
Yes.
I got my first car in college, but I tell you what, that little Jeep Liberty, it had some life to it. Oh, man. So if I may, I know something happened that was a little traumatic and life-changing for you in high school, and I wanted to dive into that and give you an opportunity to tell our listeners, what was that big event that happened to you in high school?
Well, it wasn't in high school.
Okay.
Technically it was, but I didn't know it.
Okay.
I graduated at 17 in early June of 1987. A month after graduation, I found out I'm expecting. Okay, I had a high school boyfriend. We were in a committed relationship, but it had been on again, off again throughout high school. We were on, obviously, at the time. So I find out at 17, a month after I graduated, because I had a late birthday. I was a young graduate, that I was expecting. And it was definitely a life-changing situation for me.
Wow. I cannot imagine at 17. So take me back to that moment. How did you find out? What was the way in which that you knew you were pregnant?
That's a funny story. Looking back, I was so naive. I'd heard of other girls getting on birth control.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had never talked to me about birth control. I had never been taken to a gynecologist. I was truly naive. So I was at work. That job that I told you about earlier, I was at work one night and started feeling a feeling that I'd never felt before. I actually felt very weak and like I was going to pass out. I was shaking. And a friend of mine visited me on the job, and she said, "Oh, all of your signs I think you might be pregnant.
Wow.
And I laughed. I was like, there's no way. Well, maybe there is a way when I started thinking about it. But in my mind, my initial reaction was, this can't be. So the next day, my boyfriend and I went to a pregnancy test center, and they confirmed that I was indeed pregnant.
Wow. And in that moment, was he in the room when you found out and they shared the news? And so y'all both absorbed that together at the same time? Immediately, what were the thoughts and the emotions that rushed through your head when somebody at a pregnancy resource center, a stranger, tells you you're 17 and you are pregnant?
Yeah, it was a rush of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous. I was scared. My initial thought, because I was just a kid, I was
Yes.
just a young girl, I was terrified to tell my parents. That was my initial thought, as crazy as that may seem. Then once I got past that, it was, how am I going to afford a child?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to afford an apartment? I mean, I was just coming off of high school graduations, and I worked a job, but I barely made over minimum wage. It was a high school job. It wasn't an adult job
Right.
or a job that could take care of a child.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fear, a lot of fear, because I was 17. I
Absolutely.
wasn't 18, so I wasn't really technically a legal adult. So I waited. I waited weeks until after my 18th birthday before I finally got the courage to tell my parents.
And I hear it all the time that when you're that young, the most important thing to you at that point are your parents, and not wanting to disappoint them, and knowing that this is not only going to change our lives having an unplanned pregnancy, but it impacts them as well. And wrapping your mind around how you're going to tell your parents that their lives are also about to change. It's nerve-wracking,
It was
terrifying.
very scary. My parents were divorced, so I have a
Mm,
unique story. Even outside of my own story, my parents were very young when they got married by choice.
right.
They waited, they didn't have me until 2 years after
Wow.
they had married, but they were both very, very young and immature, especially my dad. So the marriage did not last. My parents divorced when I was 9 months old.
Wow.
So I was very close to both,
Right.
but I was my mother's only child.
Mm,
So my dad remarried and married a woman with a child, and then they had a daughter together. So I had a family, like
okay.
sister type environment at my dad's. But I was my mom's only child in my mom's world.
So that's pressure right there. That's even more pressure being the only child. So how did you tell your mom?
It makes me nervous even talking about it. It's bringing back all these emotions from that day. But I sat her down with my boyfriend, who had by this time, because remember, we had weeks, I waited weeks before I got up the courage to tell her, but he had bought me an engagement ring.
Okay.
So we came in one night, it was late. She was already in the bed,
Oh,
but I got her up. I had to do it right at this moment or I would lose my courage. So I got her up out of bed, took her downstairs into the den and said, I have something to tell you. And she had this look on her face like, oh gosh. And I said, my boyfriend asked me to marry him. And I said, yes. And she said, do you have a ring? And I showed her the ring. And she was like, oh no, you do not have you're too young.
yeah.
No, you're not getting married. And I said, Mom, yes, I am. And she said, why? Why are you in a rush to get married? And I said I was pregnant. And she lost it.
Absolutely. I can only
She was
imagine.
not losing it. I mean, I'm sure she was mad at me,
Right.
but I think it was more disappointment because
Yeah.
I had never given her any trouble.
Right.
She almost acted like I was perfect, like nothing would ever happen to me. I would never be subjected to make mistakes like other children, like that. You know, I was a good kid, and she just assumed that life would always be perfect. And it was. I just had this unplanned pregnancy. So her initial reaction was not good. It took her a while to absorb the information and embrace it.
Absolutely. It's a lot to process, having my own unplanned pregnancy, telling my mom, terrified. And I chickened out, Leslie. I flew home from college with all the intentions of the world to tell her face to face, and I chickened out. I was too nervous because of that feeling of you're going to think I'm a disappointment. And we build it up big time in our heads, probably more. The longer we wait and we hold that secret in, it almost eats you alive a little bit.
It did. And just to back the story up a little bit, I did let the secret out to my closest friends.
Okay.
I had a friend that I had been best friends with in middle school and in early high school years who had an unplanned pregnancy.
Okay.
She ended up having to drop out of high school.
Wow.
Or she chose to drop out of high school. Super smart young lady, super smart, but she got married and she dropped out and she started her family, still together with her husband to this day.
Okay.
But she was a huge source of strength for me because she had been through what I was facing, except she had it even harder because she was still in high school.
Right.
At least I had graduated.
Yes.
But she was great. Another very close friend of mine also, I confided in her. And they knew my heart. They knew me. They knew what I was capable of. And they didn't have the emotion that I knew my mother was going to have around the situation. So they could think more clearly and give me wise counsel. But they were on me to tell my mom, like, Leslie, you've got to, the longer you wait, it's going to become obvious that you're pregnant. You want to tell your mom now. So they were really a force behind me getting the courage to do it face to face.
So you're 17, just graduate. Well, you're 18 by the time you tell mom, graduated high school. Do you have plans for the future? Did you have college plans? Talk a little bit about what you were hoping to achieve. And now all of a sudden you find out you're pregnant.
Yes. So I was a good student in school. Remember, I'd always been, the one to make mom proud. So yes, I wanted to go to college. There was never any doubt in my mind. I absolutely wanted to attend college and was planning to attend the University of Alabama in the fall. So this is July when I turn 18. A few weeks later, I tell my mom, of course, it altered that plan a little bit, but that was my intention. And that's what she wanted for me more than anything, was to be able to do the things that she didn't get to do because she chose to get married young and have a child young. She didn't go through any of that. She wanted that life for me. Absolutely.
And of course, you say Alabama. I'm an Auburn fan, War Eagle. I just have to throw it in there.
It's okay. My daughter that I was pregnant with in this story that I'm telling you about went to Auburn.
I mean, she picked the best of both worlds. I've got to love it. I got to love it. That is really awesome. So you're looking at going to Alabama. Walk me through. You're engaged now. Do you get married and go to school? What does that next step look like?
Yep. Great question. So yes. So I get married in August, early August.
Okay.
My mom, after her initial shock wore off, she was great. Planned a wedding for me. I had a nice wedding. Wow. Not a huge one, but I had close family and friends there. Got married in August. So August 7th was the date. So I did not enroll in school right away.
Okay.
He ended up enlisting in the military.
Wow.
Okay. So we could actually afford to have a baby.
Yes.
Because we were young. Yeah. So I didn't want to take school on in the fall. I didn't. So I waited, had my daughter the following February, and started college that fall. So 1 year later. So it only delayed my plan by 1 year.
1 year. And another baby enters the picture at some point, correct?
Correct. And by the way, so even though I started a year later, it wasn't the University of Alabama.
Okay.
So I live and was from Birmingham. Tuscaloosa was too far away.
Yes. With no support, how do you totally uproot yourself in a baby?
Right. I couldn't do it. So I entered a community college.
Okay.
1 year later. Okay. So that was exciting though. I was actually getting to live my dream. Unfortunately though, I was working because I have to support a household. We never lived with our parents.
Right.
So that's another thing with my story. When I committed to getting married and having a child, my parents said, then you will be responsible for the decisions you're making.
Okay.
Your husband and yourself will support this child.
Wow.
So you're on your own.
Right.
So I was. So after I married in August, we moved right into an apartment.
Okay. And you figured out a way to make ends meet.
Yes, with no credit score.
Wow.
So I couldn't get a credit card because I had no credit. He had no credit. It was a hard road, but we did it. So we rented a 1-bedroom efficiency apartment that was literally walking distance to the community college where I had enrolled, and made it work.
And, that's something we realized through baby steps. The whole reason we have this podcast is we're starting, sites all over college campuses to help these women experiencing unplanned pregnancy with housing, community support, whatever they need to graduate from college. And housing can be a big issue because you don't realize that when you're in college or straight out of college around that age, you don't have credit. So career-wise, do you think your unplanned pregnancy stopped you from achieving all that you had hoped to accomplish in life?
No, not at all. It altered the course a little, and it slowed Leslie's plans down a little, but no, not at all. So I'd mentioned earlier, I was working at the bank downtown until, even after I had my second daughter.
Okay.
Then I had a job change. A friend of mine was working in healthcare on the health insurance side of healthcare. So the business end of healthcare. I was a business major. So naturally I was interested in the business side of healthcare. Took that job, really, really liked it.
Awesome.
Fast forward a few years, I ended up getting divorced, as I had told you earlier.
Yes.
I was offered an opportunity to move to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to do a startup. It's Medicare Advantage. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it's in healthcare. But they were doing a startup Medicare plan. I had experience in it. I happened to work for the only health plan in Alabama who did Medicare.
Wow.
So it was perfect. So I actually had 2 job offers to move to Baton Rouge for 2 different health systems who were recruiting me. Both offered me sign-on bonuses, both paid my moving expenses, and both offered me a chance to go into management without a college degree, which did not happen back then. Doesn't happen now a lot either, but it really did not happen in the 80s, early 90s. So I did that. I moved by myself with my 2 daughters, started a new job, set up housing, and started a brand new single mom life.
My goodness.
But it catapulted me into management. Had I stayed where I was in Alabama, I doubt seriously I would have moved into management, or it would have taken me twice as long. So this career opportunity I was offered, 2 opportunities to move, got me into management, and I never looked back.
Wow. And you ended up getting your degree and a second one, right?
Correct.
Wow.
So I got that plan up and running in Baton Rouge, was offered a job by United Healthcare. I'm sure you're familiar with United.
Absolutely.
United offered, they had bought a health plan in Birmingham and offered me a job, paid my moving expenses, sign-on bonus, nice salary to move back home so I could raise my daughters around family, which was really important. Driving back and forth from Louisiana to Alabama wasn't fun or easy with 2 young ones. Wow. So I jumped on it, moved back home, stayed there for a few years, moved on to another startup health plan owned by University of Alabama at Birmingham. And worked there for 15 years, rose up the ladder, but really yearned for what I'd always wanted, which was a college degree. That was very, very important to me.
Yes.
I just wanted to prove to myself and for my children that I could do it, and that I valued education, and that I do not expect anything of them that I would not do myself.
Exactly.
So ended up meeting my second husband, who I'm with to this day. We've been married 25 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We married, and 3 years after that, I have another child. So I have a son. So I'm working this great job. I have a great husband. I have 3 children, still wanted to go back to school. As crazy as that seems. So by this time, when I went back to school, I had a really stressful job. I had a lot of expectations on me, but I did it. So I'd mentioned to you earlier that I went to a community college,
Right.
and I had started and I had done 2 years of that, not always full time, but I did as much as I could. And I never got to finish that school.
Okay.
So the first thing I did, I took baby steps, no pun intended, and went back to that same community college.
Okay.
Majored in business management and received my associate's degree. Gotcha. So I thought, even if I can't continue on and get a bachelor's degree, at least I accomplished one degree.
Right.
Finished that, wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. I couldn't do it. Right. So I enrolled at Huntington College, which is also in Alabama, based in Montgomery. They offered a program for working people, working professionals, to go to school at night. Okay. So I would go to school.
Here we are again at night.
Yes. Well, that's the only way you can do it.
It takes. Yes.
So, but they offered at that same community college, Huntington College offered face-to-face instruction at that school close to me.
Okay.
So I was able to go get a face-to-face education, not an online education, and got my bachelor's degree. And that was 2011. Okay. So not that long ago.
No.
But that really changed my professional life, because no longer did I have to stay at that one company. Right. Now I have that bachelor's degree, so I can apply for jobs anywhere. Prior to that, if you didn't have a bachelor's degree, you wouldn't get past HR screening.
Right.
It didn't matter that you had years of experience and that you had climbed the ladder and received multiple promotions. Without that degree, without the education, you were not considered.
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, at that point I was. So I've been able to kind of branch out. Now I work for a healthcare technology firm that supports health plans. They're my clients now.
Awesome.
But it's given me a world of opportunity financially. It's been a huge blessing. Getting the bachelor's degree changed my life. It truly did, in more ways than one, but definitely financially.
And you got there. I mean, it was a little bit different of a route than you initially had planned, but you got there. And with baby steps, I really hope and dream for our student moms to realize they don't have to struggle the way that you and I have to get our degree and to be the best mother that we possibly could be. At the same time, it's hard. And so what are your initial thoughts on an organization like Baby Steps? Would that have impacted you when you were a student mom?
It would have been a life-changing situation for me to have an organization like Baby Steps. And when I first heard of you guys, I was like, I have to get involved. I have to reach out to these people, because what you're doing is life-changing. And young women have choices in life. Yes. And just knowing that somebody is there to support you, to be your friend in a non-judgmental, loving, caring way, and help you meet all those needs: financial, housing, friendship. Yes. Friendship is needed when you're going through that, because when you're young and expecting, all of your friends are still living their college life.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden you become isolated because you can't do that anymore. You don't want to do that anymore. So having the friendships that Baby Steps offers is also, to me, a huge part of what you do.
Absolutely. You know, you don't see many pregnant students on campus. It's still a bit of a stigma that is attached to being of college age, being in college, and expecting a child. And through Baby Steps, we've kind of uncovered that where is this coming from? You know, we live in 2023 where female empowerment should be a thing. These women should be empowered to stay in school, finish what they started, and still be able to parent and do both well. They don't only have to survive this unplanned event in their life, but through the help of community, they can thrive, truly thrive doing both things. So our hope and goal is that this podcast would reach, all over the nation and give these young women hope that they can do this, they can stay in school, and eventually have people have generous hearts give back to Baby Steps so that we can open campuses on every college. Right now we're fully open and functioning on Auburn's campus. We are starting at Alabama, as you would love. They're in their fundraising efforts to open their doors. And we're also doing the same at University of Central Florida. And then also Tennessee has begun their fundraising efforts as well. But we know that there are many students waking up, finding out they're pregnant, not thinking they can stay in school and be the best mom they can be. And so my question to you, to wrap all this up, would be, what would your advice be to that young student that's finding out she's pregnant and is scared? Back to kind of how you felt when you found out. What would you say to her?
I would say, I know you're scared, and it's normal to be scared, but you can do this. And I would inform my younger self about baby steps. Like there's help, there's support out there. You're not alone. Even if your parents can't support you or choose not to support you, even if your boyfriend or, whoever, got you pregnant isn't in the picture, because oftentimes girls are left all alone, even without the guy acknowledging his part in it, that there's support. There is support. And if you want to have this baby, let this group, let your friends in this group help you. Stick to your goals. You are destined for great things. Women are super powerful. And I believe we're a force. We truly are in life. And
absolutely,
don't let it slow you down. Use the support. Take the help. There's no shame in taking help. Get your degree, and you and that baby can thrive financially and in every other way if you do so.
Oh, Leslie, I just got chills. Those just some beautiful words of wisdom from somebody who has walked that long, narrow journey herself. And I thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on and just let our listeners know that there is light at the end of all of this. And you are living proof of being able to accomplish all your goals in life and really come out the other end very proud of everything that you've accomplished. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I truly hope, and I share in your vision of taking baby steps to every college campus in America. Every young woman needs this type of support. And I encourage all the listeners, if you can support baby steps, do so. I myself am doing it. It's that important to me, and I will continue to do so. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. And if you are listening and you would like to support us, you can go to babysteps.org, and a little pop-up will come up where you put in your personal information. You can sign up to follow what we're doing across the nation right now. And there is a donate tab. I'll selfishly put that plug in there. If financial giving is something you'd like to consider, that's where you would find that, that button on our website. But thank you again, Leslie, and I hope you have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.